Good morning, 17 November 2017, Korat, Thailand. This morning, weather report from northeast Thailand and points beyond, and a little discussion about the L. Franken groping debacle, apparently, that's hit this former Saturday Night Live comedian, and a little bit of Jessica Simpson's "These Boots Were Made for Walking," but change the lyrics a little bit for L. Franken to say "these hands were made for groping." Okay, and first we'll get to the weather report for northeast Thailand and regions beyond. Today, currently it is 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Now the location here, let's see, shoot, God, no. Good morning again. Hopefully back on successful streaming. Had a network error pop up just now, and we'll have to rerun this a bit. Today is 17 November 2017, Korat, Thailand. Today we'll have the weather report from Korat, northeast Thailand and points beyond. A little bit of commentary regarding L. Franken's groping experiences and in appropriately taken photography, apparently, and a little bit of clip from Jessica Simpson's music video, "These Boots Are Made for Walking." It's a catchy tune, catchy then, catchy now. L. Franken apparently also groping then, groping now. So whether age and the years have taught him anything, something else again. And the question, I think, society-wide is, do guys have a guy thing and it's okay to forgive it, or it's exploitive, it's repressive, it's shameful, and we just have to completely stop it? And those are the philosophical issues, apparently. They will not likely be decided by the L. Franken story here, whose Stuart Smiley character always said, good enough, gosh darn, I'm just good enough. And apparently back then his hands were good enough for groping. These days are good enough for pretending to grope. And these days, lots of people, understandably and rightfully, are not putting up with that behavior anymore. It's not just a guy's thing. Anyway, weather report for northeast Thailand and points beyond. Today, here in Mulang District, Korat, which is downtown district, 25 centigrade, 35 high today, 24 low. Pattaya City, 26 at the moment with mist, 31 high today, 26 low. Bangkok, 27 at the moment, 33 high and 26 low, mist. Chiang Mai, partly cloudy, 23 centigrade, 33 high, 23 low. Phuket Island Resort at the moment is 26, partly cloudy, high today 33, low 25. Khon Kaen, currently 26 degrees centigrade, 36 high today, which is pretty darn hot, and 24 low, partly cloudy. Udon Thani, up near the Lao border, closer to Vientiane, Laos than we are, of course. 25 at the moment, 35 high today, 24 low, and it's clear. Ubon Ratchathani along the Mekong River, 25 degrees centigrade at the moment, 35 high today and 25 low. Differential of 10 centigrade there, and it's partly cloudy at the moment. New York City, 12 degrees centigrade right now, 15 centigrade high today, 6 low, and partly cloudy. And where you left your heart, San Francisco, 14 centigrade, high today 17, low 12. And that is the weather report for northeast Thailand and points beyond. And now we'll get right to this latest public debate and shameful admission of sexual impropriety by no less a personality than Stuart Smiley himself, who transformed himself into Senator Al Franken, and apparently has done a reasonably good job as far as advocacy and dealing with people to support his opinions and all that. But I want to go ahead and play this because he has been, I mean, he even shows his own photo, as you can see in the inset on the photo on the left there. He's pretending to grope a lady, and thought it was really funny then, and took a picture, and the picture has now come out. In today's environment, it's not funny anymore. Actually, it wasn't funny back then, but it was funny because there are guy things, and guys do these things, and just gotta put up with the BS, right? And the answer to that one today is no, you don't have to put it up with it, and you shouldn't have had to put up with it. So this is what our advocates today are saying is, guys and people around the world, but especially say here in America, we have got to stop this sexual exploitation, period, whether it's women or men, children especially. So we've got laws and regulations and social attitudes about not exploiting others, and yet we continue to do so. So these are the serious side of the issues. The less serious side, we'll listen first to Senator Franken on a previous broadcast, who was um, citing some of the impropriety of sexual harassment or sexual abuse of other persons. And here's Al Franken.
Number of years, we need to hold perpetrators of sexual assault accountable and make sure that these cases are always taken seriously. I recently introduced the Justice for Survivors of Sexual Assault Act. This law addresses the national rape kit backlog and several other problems that work to deny justice to survivors. When it comes to violence against women, members of the Senate always have been able to come together. The VAWA Reauthorization Act renews our national commitment to prevent and respond to incidents of sexual assault, a heinous crime that remains all too common in America, even while domestic violence is becoming less common.
Okay, so he's advocating that sexual assault be punished as it is a crime. And the issue there, obviously, is that it is a crime, and it shouldn't go on. People should not be assaulting women, and it has to be punished. There has to be not just consensus on it, but laws that exist that deal with this properly, and a set of moral and ethical principles backed by legal protections and punishment that do deal with sexual molestation or sexual assault in any of its forms. So America's social attitudes are changing, and they have changed. And there's a clash of, quote, and don't misquote me, but quote, civilizations, unquote, when it comes to our attitudes toward the opposite sex. I mean, they were one thing at one time, and now there's something else right now. So let's get with the program. So anyway, to end this on a lighter note, if you want to sing "These Boots Are Made for Walking," but change it for Al Franken's benefit, modify the lyrics a little bit to say "These hands were made for groping." And here we go on three. 1, 2, 3.
Are you ready, Boots? Start walking. Let's go. You keep saying you got something for me. I just don't understand it. Now you're looking by the way I thought you'd be looking. Legs come here when I was in front of you. These boots are made for walking. That's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. Believe you
Patron at the bar just smacked her in the butt. Willie Nelson turns around and looks at what's going to happen. Patron is enjoying a little bit of a dance with Jessica, smiling, eating it all up. And she smacks her in the head and knocks her on the floor. That starts to be the bar fight. Okay, so that's that one now. It's worth watching. YouTube and Jessica Simpson. These boots are made for walking. So you want to go to the Jessica Simpson official music video for These Boots Are Made for Walking. Now, I guess part of the political correctness and sexual appropriateness versus non-appropriate behavior and nature of our relationships between the sexes is concerned. Are we going to get to the point where videos on YouTube, because they're strongly suggestive, they're emblematic, they're typical of a type of behavior that we claim as a society is inappropriate and undesirable? Are we going to go through every element of our society and wipe this out to the last vestige? Think about it, because I don't have time right now, and I'm not sure others do as well, but we have to decide whether or not there is a point, and I'm not excusing wrongful behavior, but there comes a time when you have to decide at a certain point whether something was stupid and ill-conceived, should not have been done, and the guy that did it only gets a slap in the face or a punch in the nose, or he's forced to walk into his office, say, and write an apology to a fellow staff member, promise not to repeat the behavior. It's put in his personnel file with a termination notice. Now, for more serious things. So, how is this going to be handled, and how much do we want the government to be involved in it? Sure, regulation and punishment are wonderful things when they're appropriate, but when all they do is oppress people who are trying to, and again, don't misquote me or put me out of context, because this is not what it may sound like, but when people are trying to have fun, joke around, be a guy or be a girl, whether they're down south or in the West or in New York City or Chicago, wherever it is, and this goes across all races, Latino community, the African-American community, Asian community, Hispanic community, the white community, any community. We have jokes and humor and satire and spoofs that, and even live television coverage that is pretty explicit and implicit sexually. Those depictions in video and other media portray women in a certain light, and I would say probably with a often not even trying to be veiled as sexual innuendo, and so women become a sexual object for that. That's a real issue that we have to deal with as society. Do we want that kind of humor or not? And it's obvious that activists against it do not want it. And as a society is keeping it, but dealing with it gradually right now, the best thing to do, or should we just jump in and get rid of everything and start over from a fresh plate? I don't know if we can get that far or not, but it is a serious issue. and let's hope that we can deal with it as adults and not just by screaming and asking somebody to hand over a rope and hang a guy or hang a girl or hang a senator or hang, in particular, hang a political candidate who's approaching election time, whose opposition, doesn't matter which party he's from, Democrat or Republican or not, but when you come up to that crux where it's essential that the public be dealing with accurate, truthful information about the candidate's political positions and, in another important aspect, his overall ethical and moral fiber. Does he have it or not? And that's one issue facing Roy Moore right now, which I've said before. Neither you nor I have the facts. Even investigators don't have the facts per se yet on whether he's guilty or not. But because this issue of gender exploitation, in this case a guy thing against women perhaps, but in this case we are dealing with a very serious situation, and we have to decide whether or not, in many instances, because of the those were the times when that kind of thing was fine, or that region accepts it. Are these rationales appropriate to employ during the investigation or questioning of behavior or not? We get it applied in the around the world in the Muslim community. You have a lot of even Western judges at criminal trials that include rape, where Muslims are who were the perpetrators in the rape are let off the hook because they didn't understand the culture they're living in. This is ridiculous. I'd like to see some public media discussion of this, in fact, on MSLSD and the New York Slimes and the Washington Compost and so on, that Mark Levin likes to have tongue-in-cheek fun with renaming these media organs, because that's what they are. They're tongue-in-cheek news anymore. They don't really have a fair representation of the news. And when you and I read things nowadays, there used to be an old saying that believe half of what you read. And I would not even say that anymore. Believe the subject matter exists in whatever you read, but do a heck of a lot of research from not sources that are reported, but sources that you yourself go out and find and verify and cross-reference before you get on the bandwagon and come up to the sheriff's office with a mob behind you with a rope and break the prisoner out of jail and put him up on a gallows and hang him, because that's not your job. The job is that of the investigators. You can form an opinion, but your first opinion should always be, I don't know, and I'm not sure. And if you want to qualify that by saying, well, in my opinion, I think, that's one thing. So this is what being an American is all about. You're able to look at something reasonably, objectively, and not necessarily conclude an opinion on it until you have all your facts together. Al Franken, we probably don't even have all our facts together on Al. He may have been doing this more frequently than we know at the moment. The behavior is encouraged in our entertainment media in particular, and you know, even MMA, which I like to watch myself. But you watch The Ring. There's some very what do you call it? Scantily clothed, young, attractive, beautiful, robust women standing alongside as a fighter makes his way down into the ring. So you got that. You got it at football games. You got it at basketball games, short skirts and attractive girls and so on. So you've got this. You have an accepted, widely spread representation of women being attractive, being desirable, being able to be appreciated. Um, if you want to say sexually, that's one thing, but they're appreciated as women. So again, it's a little bit of a mix of a guy's thing and how older social mores were constructed and how they were practiced versus the demands for a different kind of society today that progressives in particular, but joined with racial activists, joined with other media, are pressing to change. And a lot of that is honorable and desirable, but how far we should go in it and who should get their neck put in a noose is for the authorities to decide. Not for you, not for me, not for MSNBC, not for the Washington Post, not for CNN, not for anybody but the authorities who are responsible for it. And ending on Judge Roy Moore's case, the people of Alabama, I think, have properly said, we'll handle this. And Senator Moore, if he becomes such after this election, has got to live with the whatever shame and pressures that may or may not develop as a result of his behavior. Not just his behavior or lack of behavior, but how that behavior has already been perceived and has already been maligned by media and maligned by armchair warriors sitting behind a webcam like I'm doing at the moment and making conclusions that he's got to go, he's slime, he's this, he's that. Al Franken isn't, Roy Moore is. Bill Clinton apparently doesn't need to be brought up anymore because it's over with. I mean, like, okay, if we make allowances for the likes of a sexual predator like Bill Clinton, if we make allowances for him and don't even bring the subject up again and force him to get therapy, doesn't Clinton need therapy? No. What you feel he needs, apparently, is an invitation to your group where you can give him $500,000 to entertain everybody. And that's what we're doing now with some of our nation's worst sexual predators. And don't forget, Clinton had a young lady perform fellatio on him in the White House. That is a disgusting and shameful thing to have done. He claimed to be sorry for it. I doubt he was. I doubt he is now. But that's my opinion. It's not something that I can say I know to be true. And because I'm not passing on judgment on Bill Clinton as far as my knowledge of him and what he did is concerned, I'm also in the same way asking you, the rational American, not to pass judgment on Judge Roy Moore unless there is sufficient evidence by authorities and investigators to prove that he did what is alleged to have been done, and whether or not any of that should be forgiven or not. We forgave Bill Clinton, and he's been left off the hook by you, by your networks, by your entertainment businesses, by your activists for such a long time. Why don't you, if you're going to be fair about this and you really want to put the brakes on improper behavior toward women, why not drag up Bill Clinton again and let's get this guy punished, let's get him shamed, let's get him to pay, however, for what he did, because it was wrong. And there are several women who claim that he either molested them profusely or even raped them. And neither of the two Clintons, Bill nor Hillary, are really ready to attend a therapy session and find out what motivates them one, to have done it in the first place, and two, to protect the person who did it. So when we can get these issues all resolved as rational Americans, when we can look at Americanism again instead of party politics, then we'll have achieved something. So, Stuart Smiley, I'm good enough to make this broadcast. Good day, everyone.